and this is the One Big Tip podcast. And today, I am really excited to have with me on the line David Duford. David helps people become successful insurance agents and grow prosperous insurance agencies. He runs a virtual insurance agency helping new and experienced agents nationwide become top producers. He is also the author of three best-selling books on insurance sales and marketing. And if that wasn't enough, he's also a influencer in the industry with nearly 21,000 subscribers and more than 2 million total views. David, welcome to the show.
Greetings and salutations, Jeff. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun today. Can you please give me a little bit of a background of how you got into this business? You know, it's like selling insurance is it's not easy, right? You got to be a machine in order to do it successfully.
Right.
There is a lot of technique to it. Not everyone is cut out for it. So being
Right.
able to train people, in order to be successful, especially in in your industry, that's a thing. Can you please talk a little bit about how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, to complete desperation. I think that's how every insurance agent ends up. I had my business was flailing in 2011 during the Great Recession. Had a personal training business and didn't see a way to keep it going. So I started looking for jobs. Nobody was hiring, and when push comes to shove and you're desperate for work, you'll do things like sell insurance, and that's kind of where I ended up. So I stumbled across a niche called final expense life insurance. I think burial insurance to cover burial costs, and found it was a great industry. It was growing. It was getting bigger, and jumped right into it and loved it. Could help basic salt of the earth type people cover their expenses that they're concerned about that aren't making a lot of money, give them peace of mind, kind of sense of satisfaction they wouldn't get otherwise with kind of the typical approach to insurance. And they've had ups and downs like most people have throughout their career in life, but things are going great. It's the best decision that I've ever accidentally made.
How did you make the transition, though, from just being an insurance agent for making your own magic happen to starting to train other people and becoming a coach
Yeah,
and writing the books and all that? How did all that come about?
sure. Yeah. So the one thing the insurance business can provide is a passive or semi-passive source of income. You don't get this in a lot of other business opportunities. And while making income selling life insurance is great, at the end of the day, if you stop working, the money stops coming in, right? So I kind of discovered this a couple of years into it. It was made obvious to me that while I love working, I would probably want to get to the point in my career where me having to do something wasn't a requirement to actually make an income. So that's where a lot of this brand development of my personal brand and the idea to develop the agency came into it. When you recruit agents and you train them in the insurance business, you make a portion or a cut of whatever production they bring in. So it's a source of income you didn't have to go out and sell. And through the process, of course, branding is important. Creating content like you and I are doing right now is a huge component to positioning yourself. And I got in 2014 and 15 doing the same thing, one of which was the books that I created to be the guy who wrote the book on the business, right? And so all of this kind of just manifested towards this ultimate goal of being someone in the business, developing my brand, and then to disconnect the sales, the income I made, from actually having to go work so I could make money, but not necessarily have to do the hard work like my insurance agents have to.
Amazing. So when you started, putting together those courses and writing the books and all that, what kind of influence or what kind of mark did it make on your business in terms of increasing your revenues, or was it like shifting away so you wouldn't have to deal with the actual customers? Now you could just deal with clients. Like, what was
Right.
that about?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I started it with the idea of just, it's something different. We'll see what happens. I don't know if this is what I want to do. Turns out I really liked it. And I've always had a penchant for marketing and branding. I'm a big Dan Kennedy marketing guy. If you were back around in the aughts in the 90s, you know who we're talking about. Big influence on my life. Frank Kern is another one. And all of them taught about this idea of brand to an extent, a lot of direct response stuff too. But we're at the beginning, I think, of this influencer type of stuff that's so prominent now. And I felt like if I created courses, if I created content, especially in back in the day, and even now for sure on YouTube, I would have a unique position to my competition, other agencies recruiting the same people, that people will want to deal with somebody who is a trusted advisor, who understands the business experientially, is honest with the good and the bad. And working with somebody like that has, hopefully in their minds, obvious advantages. So all of this just contributed to this blessing that I have in my life now, which is people come to me and they're sold on what I do because they go down the black hole of my content. You know, they know, like, and trust me, see me on video, and it gives them a lot of confidence that, okay, joining Dave, I'm going to feel comfortable in a business that, and we can talk about this to an extent, but the insurance business is kind of rife with a lot of that multi-level marketing cult kind of culture, and people are aware of it and don't like it. You know, it all contributes. It's so important to do all this stuff, and it's made a huge difference in my business.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I want to dig into your one big tip. And you know, it was really profound when I saw it because, you know, basically you titled it See the People, right? And it's really about trying to figure out, you know, essentially who your avatar is and how you're going to sell to them, right? And even within knowing who your avatar is, in terms of age group, income level, you know, those basic things, it's actually a lot deeper than that, right? I mean, there's so much more that can go in, especially as when you're trying to sell insurance to someone. I mean, you got to be a good listener as much as, you know, just as much as a good talker, you know, in order to be able to actually close that sale, because you don't make anything until the final paper is solved.
Right.
So let's talk about that. How do you define See the People, and how have you implemented it for your coaching and for your clients?
So, you know, it's funny, sales training. So to be a good insurance agent, you have to have a process. You have to have techniques, right? You have to have a script to follow. You have to understand how to build rapport. You have to be able to craft the offer and close confidently. All this stuff matters. But the other side of that, which is the less sex appeal, I guess you could say, people are less enthusiastic, is you got to go actually talk to people. And you got to do it consistently every single week. And a lot of people, while it's important, they get all strung up with what you say and how you say. And yes, that's important. But you can't leave that behind for the absolute importance of getting in front of enough people every week to realize what is actually capable. And this is something that is common. This See the People thing is really, it's kind of a yesteryear type of phrase. A lot of insurance agencies in the 70s and the 80s used. You don't hear it that much today, but I use it a lot because it simplifies the complex, okay? At the end of the day, insurance is about helping people. And you got to get in front of them. You got to sit down in appointments. You got to call them on the phone. You got to knock on the door to sit down and have a conversation with them to see how you can help them. If you forget that and you get, you know, go down the black hole of, you know, all these sales techniques and this and that, and you forget the fundamental importance of getting out in front on the phone, in person with people, you're going to fail the business. And so seeing the people is what you should always be thinking about from sunrise to sunset. Who am I going to help? How can I get in front of them? And be relentless in doing that every single day.
When you're talking about, when you're teaching people how to do that, I think it's really interesting, you know, that whole part about building rapport, right? Because, like, I remember in my experience when I was, you know, hounded for, you know, for someone to sell me term life insurance, right? You know, he had a very specific technique. And, you know, since I was in sales as well, I was able to recognize that. But at the same time, he was so good that he actually knew how to get under my skin and press those buttons, right? Yeah. How do you teach that? How do you get someone to, like, really hone in on that skill and be able to do that?
We want to play offsides. Okay, this is important. In the way we talk about being offsides, this is a concept we learn in jiu-jitsu. I do a lot of jiu-jitsu. There's a lot of similarities between sales performance and sports performance. And one of the things you want to have is leverage. You want to have an edge positionally in jiu-jitsu to perform a technique to submit your opponent. Anytime you're off sides, you have more of an advantage. And we look at life insurance sales or just sales in general. Being off sides to me means we start with an advantage, and that means we start with leads. So one of the things that makes everything work easier is if you know you're already talking to people that have expressed a basic interest in what you're talking about and having some kind of inclination to hearing more. So that way we're not relying on the strong arm, old-fashioned, high-pressure techniques to close, which really don't work anyway. We can now rely on being an advisor, education, showing them the fine print of our competition, and thereby convincing that we're the best option to help them out. So we have a different way to go about it. We start with an advantage. We know with our lead systems we put out there that we have prospects that have some kind of interest. They're not all going to buy, but a lot of them are. And that gives us such an advantage to sit down and in a way that's more diplomatic, that's more questions-based, that has the idea of the end in mind, what's good for the prospect. We can convince them to buy from us, not just to buy it, but then to keep it too. So that's kind of how we look at this, is start off sides, think about the client's best interest through our questioning. They're going to convince themselves if you follow the strategy to buy from you if they really are interested and they need what you have.
You know, one of the things that's interesting for me is that every once in a while, like I have a digital marketing agency, right? So every once in a while I get clients that, prospective clients that call me up and they want me to sort of automate the leads, right? So, to automate it so they don't have to make the calls, so they don't have to knock on the doors, so they don't have to actually talk to the people. And
just make me a money machine, Jeff. Jeez.
Yeah, just make me a money. Yeah, just, if we all had a money tree, yeah, I'd grow one too, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, right, what a lot of people don't get is, even though we are afforded a lot of this great tech, we have the phones and the iPads and, all this stuff, we can really go out and reach people from anywhere and everywhere, right? At the end of the day, it's still all about the handshake. It's still all about the rapport. It's still all about getting out there. When you talk with someone who doesn't want to do that kind of work, right? So but before you're ready to throw them out and just like, all right, you're untrainable. I'm not gonna talk to you. How do you approach that? How do you convince them? Hey guys, listen, like anything, if you really want to be successful, this is how you're gonna do it.
Right. I try to figure out what makes them tick. Right. So what is it that's motivating them to even consider doing sales and dealing with all the mental stress of prospecting and speaking to strangers and asking for commitment? Why do they even do this? Why are they not working their typical career? Because people end up here by chance. They don't plan to be in insurance sales. That's typically the process most of us come into this business. What motivated them originally? And I have to get back to that core fear. Typically, it's not a greed thing. It's a fear thing. The fear of working for an employer that you absolutely hate, or the fear of never getting ahead in your life, and the fear of mediocrity. People are motivated differently, and saying, hey, look, you don't want to do the work. That's fine, but you're going to go back to the stuff you hate. And if you're okay with that, who am I to argue with you? But when you propose it in that way, the hope is they'll see that what they think is bad with selling insurance and dealing with prospecting and all that stuff, it doesn't compare to what they'll be in their dead-end job, working for somebody they hate, and every single morning despising what they do for a living. I think that's a travesty. And it doesn't have to be that way anymore in America. That's what's wonderful. We have the opportunity to do things our great-grandparents could only dream of doing. They had to work the crap because that's all there was to put food on the table. So for me, it's getting back to the things that we hate or fear or that drive us emotionally, and putting in a frame of mind where doing that thing that may be uncomfortable, it's still better than what it could be.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Can you please tell people how they can learn more about your business, about your coaching, about your books, and how they can reach out to you directly if they'd like to learn more?
Absolutely. Thanks, Jeff. So 2 things here. Number 1, you can go to davidduford.com. That's my website. Lots of helpful articles on different aspects of selling all types of insurance. If you want to learn more about joining my agency to sell insurance, there's the FAQ link at the top that you can click on and learn more. Also, go to my YouTube channel. And the best way to do that is just to go to YouTube and in the search bar, put in my name, David Duford, and you'll see an endless amount of videos where you can just check me out, see what you think, and learn if what we do makes sense for you.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much for sharing that information. This has been a lot of fun. I love nerding out on sales and, just being able to get people, really excited about, some of the newer ways that they can utilize their skills and just make more money at it. So, some of the stuff that you're teaching just really goes a long way in doing that. So thank you so much for sharing that today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Bye.